ability to engage people is very important. It's important if you want to write a book. It's important. Everybody's looking at that now. What can you bring to the party yourself? And even for funding, if you're working with a startup or you're representing a startup, they're going to look at the personal brand of the CEO. What kind of person is that? What can they do to get this going? So getting your personal brand going is very important. All of these women here have great personal brands, and they have learned a lot. And the first thing we're going to do is let them give a self-introduction. So we're going to start here with Julie.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for coming. I'm Julie Spira, at Julie Spira on Twitter, if you're tweeting. I am the CEO and founder of two companies, Social Media and More, which is a social media strategy company, and another company called Cyber Dating Expert, where I help singles find love online and help them find their 1 in 40 million. As women, we are so genetically wired to reinvent ourselves over and over and over again, and I'm sure many of you can relate to that. And that's something that I've had to do as my career has sort of morphed. And I started off in broadcasting and technology as an on-air personality. And my goal was always to, work for a network. I thought it'd be really great to work for a 3-letter network one day. So I worked in radio syndication, and then I did become an executive at RKO Radio Networks in New York and LA. I was the youngest female executive at the network. It was quite a challenge being in the big boys network. And after that, I ended up being involved in 2 internet startups as an executive in sales and marketing, of which both of the companies, one was IDB Communications and one was Interpacket Networks. Excuse me, there were 3, and one was Zing Technology. All 3 companies were acquired by another public company. So it was a very interesting challenge to help take a company public and to also be involved in 2 acquisitions and merge with public companies. Happy to be here.
Thank you. Deborah?
Hello, I'm Deborah Fine. I'm CEO of I Have a Dream Foundation and of Fine Line Foundation. And what I Have a Dream does is to help disadvantaged youth throughout all of Los Angeles by picking the most at-risk youth in the most at-risk schools and adopting the classes in 3rd grade. And then we stay with them until they graduate and offer them college scholarships or other higher education, because not everybody wants to go to college. We hope they do. Fine Line Foundation came out of the fact that I used to be with bigger companies, plus own my own companies, sold a couple. One was public, and I was taking some time off, and I was doing what I really love, which is singing. So I have a little bit of everything: the big company, entrepreneur, I was a VC, and I was singing. And I drove in between the Santa Monica shooter, as many of you do know, a year and a half ago, and he was going to shoot 2 women. I drove in between, and he shot me 5 times. So that was a year and a half ago. I was lucky enough, no reason, but I survived. And I decided to really, even though I was in philanthropy and giving back, to really give back. And that was to help 2 things that I believe in: helping youth before they come to that, because they have no hope. If they have no hope, that's what happens. And also taking the stigma out of mental health. So I'm on the board of the Maple Center. So I'd love to share with you as we go. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Deborah.
Amazing.
Phoenix.
Hi, thank you all. It's nice to meet you all. Phoenix Gonzalez, I'm one of the co-founders of Dot Studio Pro. We're an entertainment technology company, and we empower content creators from an individual content creator all the way up to a broadcaster, a film distributor, or a multi-channel network, so that they can go direct to audience and deliver their content in their owned and operated environments, where they can syndicate out to platforms like Facebook, Roku, Samsung, LG, and we give them all the monetization tools to do that, as well as templated environments to engage their audience with. I came from a sales and marketing background and actually used to be an actress and beauty queen. So it was a natural transition for me to go into sales, because as an actress, you're selling yourself. And going into sales, I worked for 2 corporations. The last corporation I worked for was backed by JP Morgan and General Electric, and I was their #1 salesperson in the country. And after making a lot of money for somebody else, I decided it was time that I needed to build my personal brand and make money for myself. So my husband and myself started our entertainment technology company, and we started branding ourselves and our company so that we could empower others, because a big part of what I believe in my whole life has been about empowerment. So empowering others to find their success online is something that, has been passionate and that we're working on with our company. And I'll just leave it at that for now. It's nice to meet you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Phoenix. Kirsty,
Hi
please.
guys, Kirsty. Wonderful to be here again, third year in a row. Love Digital Hollywood, and this panel is always fun. So my background, I started in real estate sales. I was with Remax. I was in the top 100 of 120,000 salespeople worldwide, and then that led me into motivational speaking. So I've traveled all over the world speaking to thousands of different groups. I still do that today. Last month in Seattle. Last week at the SLS Hotel. So I speak to a lot of different groups, everything from entrepreneurs to sales organizations and women's groups. So I do a lot of different things. I developed an online television show called Kirsty TV, and you can tweet us at Kirsty TV. That show has just hit 500,000 views, and it's really around people sharing their stories that help heal ourselves and heal others. So we interview people who've been through all kinds of tragedy and adversity, from human trafficking to depression, addiction, and everything in between. And we're developing some online courses around shame and stigma that can help people do their healing work. So I speak to both of those different sides, the entrepreneur and the sales side audiences, as well as the stuff around personal development and personal growth. So that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you very much, Kirsty. Erin.
Hi, Erin Kapczynski. I feel like my career has taken this kind of hourglass shape, where I started with a multi-billion-dollar company, and after that have taken positions in increasingly smaller and smaller, more focused companies. And kind of at the skinny end of the hourglass, I had my own consulting practice. And then I ran marketing for a digital video tech startup that ended up selling to WPP, and our clients were major studios and other media companies. And right now I'm kind of expanding that hourglass back out, in that I work at Perch, and Perch is a new brand. We rebranded last year, actually led the company in that. And what Perch does is we own and operate websites. So basically digital content, and there's a commerce component. We're actually quite large, though you've probably never heard of us, which I'm working on fixing. We're at about 100 million unique visitors per month, and we drive about $1 billion in commerce transactions for ourselves as well as for our partners. And what I do when I'm not working at Perch and not tending to my 2 small children and all that spare time, I actually also advise LA area tech startups on how to position and talk about themselves, how to position for investment, for eventual exit, and also how to position for sales and for clients. So we'll probably talk a little bit more about that as the panel goes on.
Thank you, Erin. I am Linda Sherman, and please do note all of our Twitter handles are on the board here. I'm at Linda Sherman, and I have a long history in Japan. I was there for 21 years, where I started up Coors Japan, where I was the CEO of Club Med Japan, and helped Walmart set up over there as SVP of marketing. And so I use my corporate marketing and management background to do social media strategy, training, and consulting. And I'm also a personal branding coach. So that's why I love this panel. One of the things about personal brands is sometimes we need to transition. And you heard some transition stories during the introductions. I want to dig a little bit deeper on one of them, and that is Erin's. So if you could talk about flipping over to tech from not tech.
Sure. So at one point, various years ago, maybe 9 or so, I woke up and I'm finding myself working in the manufacturing industry. talking about things like drip irrigation and drainage, and still in marketing. And then, on the side, when I got home, I was always a huge tech enthusiast, and my big dream at the time was attending CES, not as just a plain old observer, but as part of my career. This is going to be a business trip for me one day, And so with that realization, really honing in on what I wanted, not that there's anything wrong with manufacturing, and there are lots of people passionate about it, that just wasn't me. And with that realization, I started taking active steps towards realizing my dream of attending CES as a legitimate representative of a company. And what helped me with that is having a running thread. So I was always in marketing. So I was looking forward, what skills do I have that would translate to this kind of tech industry that I wanted to be in? And so that was the running thread. And I was also prepared for anything. I was prepared to, I think I was a director level at the time. I thought, well, it doesn't matter what my new title is going to be. I'm willing to take a pay cut just to get in the door. And then I started very heavily working my network and trying to see what friends of friends I knew, who I can get introduced to, what shows I can go to that would now put me in contact with folks in the industry that I wanted to be in. And that's how it started happening. And this was on the cusp of LinkedIn. And we're so lucky for anyone looking to transition now. LinkedIn, probably a really top 2, I would say, most powerful tool you could possibly use. And I'm sure my fellow panelists will talk about other tools, but I would say I stand behind LinkedIn completely, and I wish it was more developed at the time that I was transitioning into the tech industry.
Thank you for giving us our transition to networking. So there's 2 kinds of networking. There's in-person networking and there's social networking. And first I want to talk about in-person networking because that's actually very important, and it's really great when you combine them. So you know people online and you actually get to see them in person as well. So I'd like Deborah to start off with some private networks, and think about it. You may not be eligible for these particular networks, but think about the special things in your industry or your area that you might be able to network with people. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Well, there are a tremendous number of networks for women, but overall in technology, film, all kinds of other areas, there are very, very good ones. I was lucky enough, I owned a toy company that was in many countries. And so I was asked to join YPO, which is Young Presidents Organization. And that's about 10,000 CEOs from the largest companies all around the world. I was one of 2 women in my group when I was asked to join YPO about 10 years ago. But it's a terrific network because through that there are sub-networks of women in technology, or just technology period, media and digital marketing. And now we have a social enterprise network. So if you want to give back, if you want to invest in things that do good, you can do that. I also became one of the chairs of the WIN network, which is Women in YPO. And we joined with Sheryl Sandberg of Facebook to do Lean In. So what our goal is, we all get together, we have all these conferences, but then we join with women who are on their way up that we can then help. And it's STEM, STEAM, getting them into technology, but it's also just to help you in your careers and in what you want to do next. So that has been extremely valuable in person and on the networks. There are thousands of us, which is nice to see. And then LinkedIn, to your point, I started on LinkedIn right when it came out, and just little by little, I think I have about 16,000 connections with many, many more off of that. So that's a wonderful platform as well. And I'm on boards, and later on, we have an opening on a board. So later on,
we'll talk about boards. Okay. So I'm sorry, Kirsty. You love conferences and
Conference
and
junkie.
They love you.
Yes, they do love me.
and she has some tips on getting the
Yeah.
most out of a conference.
So I think there's a few things. Networking has always been my thing. When I moved from real estate into speaking and from speaking into TV, I moved countries, cities, and organizations and into a completely different industry. So I think that the fastest way to leverage yourself and grow your business is through networking and relationship building. They can make you connections that you couldn't get any other way. They can lead to sales. They can lead to knowledge and intellectual property. And they just help you as an entrepreneur with, sort of standing on the shoulders of giants as well as developing your business. So the first thing is don't be the crazy card lady. So don't show up somewhere and interrupt conversations and have to hand out cards to everybody you meet. We've all met them and it happens constantly. So look at who you're being, how you're showing up. And my mantra last year after 18 years of networking and sales was to trust more and hustle less. You don't have to be meeting 100 people. You have to meet that one key person. And intuitively, if you trust that you're going to meet them, it could be in the bathroom. It doesn't matter where it is or when it happens. So I used to have to be at every session for 3 days and have to be everywhere. And now I trust that I'll meet that person at the pool, or I might meet them sitting next to me in a session, or they may be someone on the panel that I want to go up and connect with afterwards. And then the second thing when it comes to networking is to follow up. We meet a lot of people. I met on average 1,000 people when I moved to LA and 1,000 people when I moved industries from real estate to speaking. And one person out of those followed me up. So it really taught me that you have to be the one that follows someone up, tries to get a lunch, something planned on the schedule to solidify that relationship and that connection so that you can develop things. So those would be my top tips.
Okay, great. So I want to get to social networks, but before I do, there's one thing very much related to personal branding that I wanted to hit, that two of our panelists have very good experience with. And Julie, if you could start giving some tips about how to get a sizzle reel done. Now, if you're an actor, this is very, very important. And there are, as you know, there's the gigantically expensive type, and there's other ways of doing it. So let's talk about how to bootstrap it.
That's a terrific idea. I mean, video is huge, and I have two sizzle reels. One was one that I probably made maybe about 6 years ago when I had limited media, so I had a bunch of media logos on it, and I hired someone to edit that for me. And I have a recent one that I did this year. And because I was on a time crunch to get a demo reel to people that were looking at booking me as a television guest or using me as potentially a host on a television show, and I didn't have the $5,000 budget at that moment, I sort of posted something on Facebook that I'm looking for people that might want to help me with my sizzle reel. And one of my friends who was a broadcaster at BBC reached out to me and said, I'd love to help you, in her cute little British accent. And so she came over and we spent the day digging through a lot of my media. I mean, I've been interviewed over 600 times now since I first started Cyber Dating Expert. And, we ended up, for less than $1,000, I ended up with a really great sizzle reel. It wasn't the one that I wanted that was $15,000 that had been pitched to me, the week before, that I, almost had a meltdown about. And at the end of the day, I took that sizzle reel, and it's on my website under cyberdatingexpert.com/media reel. I uploaded it to Vimeo. I uploaded it to YouTube. And for now, it really is doing the job. So if you don't have the big budget, don't go, I can't do that. I can't do that. You can really do it, because everybody is so forgiving. They're just happy to see video of you in it. So so don't get worried about the price tag just yet, because I'm quite pleased with my demo reel now. Yeah.
If I can just mention to off of what you said about everybody's just happy to see it. When you pitch for speaking, which we're going to talk about later, that's really important to be out speaking a lot. A lot of the pitch applications will say, give me a link to video of you speaking. So that's another really important reason to have a sizzle reel. Kirsty, can you talk about how you got yours done?
Yeah, so I agree. You need to have something out there, but I also think that you need somebody to look at it and give you a what do you call it? Yeah, constructive criticism, because there's also, there's a lot of stuff I had early on that I sucked at, and it shouldn't be up there. So, I remember Dennis Swanson, the head of Fox, I was lucky enough to meet him early on, and he gave me a phone call, long story, but it was a very sweet experience. And the first thing he said to me, I was going to put up a ton of video that we'd done for Kirsty TV, and it was the launch. And he said, do not put anything up that's your first experience on camera. And so literally had to ditch like 6 months of stuff because it was all my first experience on camera. So, but later on, I didn't want to hear that, and it was hard for me because I was so attached to the interviews and for the client too, sharing their story. But 3 months later, when I was able to watch it from more of, have a bit more perspective, I was able to look at it and go, this is really amateurish. So I certainly say, look at your stuff, make sure that it's at least at not at an amateur level, that it's at certainly a level that makes you look good. And I think there's lots of things you can do to make you look good versus bad. So I have a lot of speaker friends in mastermind groups, and we'll look at different people's videos. And if they have an audience that has, 4 or 5 people in, you don't want that on camera. You want to at least do it when you have 100 people, or have the audience all in the front few rows close together. So when you're filming things, look at how can I film this so that it gives me the most credibility? How can I make sure it has the right lighting? If you're not able to get, good audiences, if it's for speaking, for example, or the right things, find ways to create that, find ways to maybe do something on a green screen instead, where at least you're sounding clear and confident and credible. And the most important thing I would say when looking at getting someone to do your reel, I was lucky enough to have both of my reels for Kirsty TV and myself as a speaker, both done for $2,000 each, which I thought was very reasonable. Because the gentleman had just moved, he was an award-winning film editor, and he'd just moved to Los Angeles. So there's tons of people who are moving in that you'll be able to get at a cheaper rate than you would maybe 3 to 6, 12 months down the track when they're up and running. And what he was particularly great at was storytelling. So if you email me or go to our website, I can direct you to where to find those reels. But I think they're great examples of, if you watch them, you see the story arc and the journey he takes people on through my speaking or through the Kirsty TV episode. And I think that that's something that even if you're editing yourself or doing it on the cheap, you can certainly figure out what the story arc is and how do I take them on that emotional journey, and what pieces of footage do I have that show those highs and lows to convey the message that I want to get across.
And if I could just add to that, I agree absolutely. That if you have a storyline, so if you have your brand, if you have the way that it flows, that's the way you want to have your sizzle reel, because it talks to who you are and what you do and what knowledge you're bringing, what special things you're bringing. And there are so many out there who will say, I'll do a sizzle reel for you for, as you said, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. And I know for me, I love the reel I have now, but it really had to evolve into who I am, what my message is. And it was from many different clips and things, and brought in the different elements, whether it was music, speaking, philanthropy, etc. And I would say, have other people look at it and make sure it is the brand, it is you that you would want to put out there for people to see. I made it to the finals of The Voice. I put something up there I never should have put up there. It would have been better not to have anything. So I agree. Make sure you like what you're putting up.
I think in terms of what Deb's saying there too, whether it's your sizzle reel or your marketing pitch packages we'll talk about later, I think gather things like keep, if you're on the cover of a magazine, even if it's an online magazine, or you speak on a panel, like start collecting those photos, collecting the testimonials, collecting the information, because that's all building your brand, and it's things you can use on your email signature. It's things you can use in your pitch decks. It's what you can use in your sizzle reel down the track. So keep anything that you do, keep a file of it because it's hard to go back and find all of those articles and all of that credibility.
No,
Yeah,
I'd like to
Kirsty
just-
has an amazing email signature with
with the
4
pictures.
covers that she's on of magazine.
I'd just like to add real quickly, whatever you do, if it's good and you feel good about it, make sure if you have a website that it's on your homepage, and make sure that if you have a LinkedIn page, they have areas for you to add videos. So add it to your video, add it to your LinkedIn page. So you have a multimedia LinkedIn page, and make sure there's a welcome video of you so people can sort of hear your story on your website.
And YouTube has the welcome video, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Right.
Right.
On your YouTube
Yeah,
channel, yeah.
that's very important to take advantage of that space.
Learn something from the panels.
Thank you. So on written branding, first of all, we think it's important for you to capture your name, and I'd like Julie to address that.
Capture your name. It's really interesting. I don't want to say I'm OCD because I'm not, but I'm very obsessive when it comes to social media. So anytime there's a new social media channel, I'm like, I've got to get my name. I've got to get my name. So whether it's youtube.com/Julie Spira or Pinterest.com Julie Spira or Instagram, my name became my brand. I'm lucky it wasn't, a name that, that a lot of people have. But I basically would grab the name even before I decided whether I wanted to use the network or not, because I certainly didn't want someone else to have my name and then I'd have multiple names all over the place. I mean, consistency is really important. So if you can't get your name, like Deborah Lynn Fine, if you can't get your name, use your middle initial, use your middle name. Try to stay away from the underscores because people get very confused. Is it an underscore? Isn't it an underscore? But being able to build your name and your brand, you are your own brand, and you're going to change careers, like I said early on, as we did. I mean, I never thought I was going to be a cyber dating expert. I was a rock and roll DJ on the radio. So you're going to change it. And so at the end of the day, you have to make sure that your brand is recognizable. So when you go up to someone and you say your name, like I did yesterday at Digital Hollywood, I said, "Hi, I'm Julie Spira," and the person looked at my card and looked at me and said, "Oh, I'm following you on Twitter," because they recognized the name. So that's my best word of advice: is any network you're on, try and be consistent and grab your name wherever you can.
It's also a good idea. You want your name, but you also want your brand. So that's another thing that Julie has done with Cyber Dating Expert. She also owns that everywhere, right?
Yeah. The interesting thing about when I started Cyber Dating Expert, it was just to really promote a book launch, which we're going to talk about books in a little bit later. And I'm like, well, let's see, the media wants me to be an expert. So, book's called Perils of Cyber Dating. So I found cyberdatingexpert.com is available when I was typing in, and boom, it was available. So I literally created a business around it, filed a trademark for it, and, have filed a few cease and desist letters for people that tried to copy it here and there. But at the end of the day, the brand suddenly became myself, and my logo, which is from the cover of the book, is my Twitter avatar. And then people just recognize the Twitter avatar as part of the brand. And it's been really, really important. And I think, how do you build a brand? We're going to talk about that a little bit later with the writing, but it comes back down to content, having great content with your brand that is authentic and genuine. That's the message. Be real and genuine and authentic.
On content, I'd like Erin to talk about long post blogging on LinkedIn. If you are not doing this is a huge opportunity.
Yeah, it really is. So I'll definitely mention that, but just a couple of things. This feeds into networking because, LinkedIn, that's all about building your professional brand, and it's all about the networking. So LinkedIn, especially this new UI that they have, it tells you 3 things about people. It now tells you their birthdays. It gives you alerts when they move around, if they have a new position somewhere else, and it also gives you an alert when they've moved positions within their current organization. So what I could tell you is stay in touch with people, say congratulations, say something. Essentially build your network out before you need it. And this means reach out to people when you don't need anything, just to say hello, to schedule a lunch, to schedule a catch up, see if you can help them in some way so that when you are in a position in the future, when you can use a little help, you'll have a credible network and you'll be known as someone helpful and not just someone who reaches out when they need something. So as far as, building your personal brand on LinkedIn, Another really good thing that you can do, and it's free, it's not a premium feature, it's free for every single user, you can now self-publish. So what I can tell you about that is it's super important for your baseline brand to pick something that you want to be known for, to be really focused, because we are, as individuals, we're really complex. I mean, we're parents, we're children, we are, workers, we are, boyfriends, girlfriends, we have many, many functions. And it would be your responsibility to pick what kind of persona, what do you want to focus on in the public eye, in particular on LinkedIn and the professional eye, what do you want to become known for? And then when you post your long form blogs, make sure that whatever you've decided you want to be known for, it's threaded through all the posts that you make. So that after a while, you've built up this library of content. And it would be pretty easy for someone to recognize what it is that you stand behind, what your strengths are, by reading some of them.
And I would add to that consistency can show through from LinkedIn to Facebook to Twitter. So no matter what I tweet, my brand is there. The brand is inspiration, healing, helping. So whether we're posting something on my speaking side or what I'm doing in my everyday life, I'm always looking at how do I post this with the angle from that viewpoint of my brand.
I'd like Phoenix to talk about Twitter and going cross-platform with different social media platforms.
When it comes to branding, so my company has found that Twitter is a strong conversion metric for us. And I think that it's important to look at the different platforms and look at what you're publishing on those different platforms and how you're engaging different audiences. So with Twitter, for us, it's very important that we shout out every customer who signs up for our platform. And from doing that, we get at least 5 to 10 new signups a day because other people are excited to see that there's a company supporting the people who are signing up for their product. So it's, when people sign up to follow you on Twitter, it's acknowledging them, and not only acknowledging them, but elevating their brand because they're supporting your brand. So that, has been something that we found to be a strong conversion metric on Twitter versus Instagram. On Instagram, we're sharing technology pictures and kind of going over the history of technology. So we're engaging an audience different who is really about imagery, but they're interested in technology imagery and looking at the history of technology through the lens of photography. Looking at Vine, we use stop motion on Vine, and on Vine we use stop motion to educate people on facts about the industry. So it's really looking at the different platforms and looking at how you can tell your stories in the different platforms that actually feed back into your personal branding, because it's really talking about what the things within your organization are that are important for you to be sharing back out. So personal branding is not just about putting the same thing on every platform, because you may have followers that are following you on all those different platforms, and they're going to get tired of seeing the same thing. They want to engage with you, so you have to keep them engaged.
I'd like to add that, if you are posting the same posts, which we do on different social media channels, just do it at different times and add a personal comment, because your personal comment on LinkedIn is going to be a little more businesslike, and on Facebook it might be, a little more friendly. But basically, don't go, okay, I've got to get this post out, and I'm going to put it on Google Plus and LinkedIn and Facebook and my Facebook business page and on Twitter all at once and say nothing about it. So the more you can personalize it and the more you can stagger it, you basically are extending the shelf life of someone that just didn't happen to see it that morning. But your friends and family and your fans are going to go, I just saw 5 posts from her, and it's sort of, maybe they're not going to want to read it.
Yeah,
This is true.
Yeah,
We are not fans of the tools that let you blast cross-platform. I know they save time, and I know a lot of people want to use them, but it's very, very easy to see that you're doing that. When you have Twitter handles on your LinkedIn post, we know that you blasted it. So it's very transparent and boring.
Can I add one thing?
Yes, certainly.
Which is a little bit different, but it's, if you do have your profile up and all kinds of information on Facebook and on LinkedIn and other places, make sure that it matches, because there is nothing that throws somebody off more, particularly if it's a recruiter, if it's somebody who's looking for talent, anything else. if you say one thing as far as what your experience has been on LinkedIn, but then your Facebook has a different chronological, timeline and says different things, it really goes to your credibility, and it also goes to, are you detailed? Are you neat? Do you care about what you're doing? So I will say also, look again and make sure that everything is lined up
And up to date.
and up to date.
That is such a great point. And if you don't think that prospective employers and recruiters look at that, they really do. They look at every single piece of content that's on you, that's out there.
We all do.
Yeah.
I'm talking about we all do in terms
We're
of
watching.
even if you're a client. It doesn't matter if you're going for a job or not, whether you're a potential partner. People are online stalking. There's not a single person I meet that I don't look at what they're doing, who they are, to see why I'm investing my time in this relationship.
It's true.
Absolutely. So one of the things you may have been feeling you ought to do is write a book. And that's because there's a lot of books out there these days, and it seems to raise your profile and make you look better and so forth. And so I'd like, Julie referred to it, but just a little bit about how to promote your book once you get it written.
First of all, I think everyone should write a book. I don't care if it's just a chapter and you post on Amazon Singles. Everyone should write a book. And the reason you need to write a book is you've got a great story to tell, and people love storytelling, and it makes you an instant expert. And media will want to book you if you're an expert, and clients will want to hire you if you're an expert. And nothing gets you faster to expert status than writing a book. So when I wrote my first book in 2008, and it was published in 2009, I was kind of on my own. I didn't have this really huge budget to promote it. And so I used social media in a big way, but I also linked into a holiday. The book is about dating. It's the perils of cyber dating. It's a romance book. So I was single focused on making sure that this book had a Valentine's release. So I had like the love connection that I could pitch to the media. So if your book is, about the environment, release it on Earth Day, whatever it may be. But we're all experts in something, and we all have a story to tell. Now, years ago, it was like, how am I going to get an agent, and what publisher is going to, hire, sign me up, and where's my advance, and I have a year and a half to write a book. Forget it. You can have a book out in 60 days now, and all you really need to do is go on to Amazon, and Amazon is the best platform. It's the biggest bookseller in the world, and everything that you put on Amazon will be indexed by Google and Yahoo and the search engines. So if anyone is interested in your topic and your book's on Amazon, your Amazon page is going to show up in all the search results. And like we talked earlier, all of us on the panel about, optimizing your Facebook page and optimizing your LinkedIn page. Well, here's the little secret. Your Amazon profile is a page that can also be optimized with all of your keywords and has a great bio about you. And so on my website for Cyber Dating Expert, I have a bunch of social media icons. They're all in the shape of a heart because it's about the brand and it's love. And there's one for Google Plus, and there's one for LinkedIn and Facebook and Pinterest and YouTube and Instagram. But I also have the Amazon logo on my page. So if anybody wants to buy my book, read about my book, read my reviews, I link to Amazon for my homepage, in sort of a fun and flirty way. So Amazon is going to need to be your best friend. BarnesandNoble.com. You can basically get your books out there. And it doesn't even have to be a paperback book, because I will tell you right now that I'm happier with the ebook sales of my books than I am on my paperback books. And maybe I'll get 75 cents from my publisher for a paperback book being sold, but my book is on Kindle and my book's on Nook. And on Kindle, I might get $7 a book. And let's face it, we're all reading on, our readers and on our iPads, and we're not necessarily buying the hard copy. And if people do read your electronic version of the book and they like it, then they go buy the hard copy. So that's a statistic. So I don't want anybody to be afraid that they can't write a book. If you can write a blog, you can write a book.
And there's a great resource from Guy Kawasaki called APE, which is on self-publishing. It's this giant resource. It's very, very good. Kirsty, can you give your book story?
Yes, I have a book. So these mics are so sensitive. So look, I think that it's like everything, you know, writing a book, developing online presence, getting a sizzle reel. They're all great, but you can't do everything at once. So it's figuring out what your priority is. A lot of people write a book and end up with 5,000 copies in their mum's garage. So I think the ebook way is a great way to go. It adds huge credibility, even just saying I'm writing a book. People, for some reason, they love authors. So it's certainly helped with my speaking career, having a book and that credibility, being able to send somebody a chapter of it as an ebook. Sending them a copy of the book is impressive. So I think for me, it's been a business card, a calling card. So it depends on what you're doing and where you're at and whether that's going to be something that, you know, can help you. Seth Godin wrote one of his last books by combining, I think it was like 52 weeks of blogs. So a great way to start is to be blogging every week and developing your content. And then you can look at how can I put this all together as part of an ebook series.
Great. Speaking of calling cards, one of the things we all have to do is sell ourselves. If it's just us as an individual or we are a startup or whatever we are doing, we're always selling ourselves. And Phoenix is really good at this. And so I want her to talk about how branding links to cold calls and some secret things that she has figured out.
Yeah, I'll start with cold calling because it's a thing that we all love to do so much.
Love it.
I think that the thing with cold calling, one, is obviously creating a master list. So I love Google Drive. I love Google Docs. I'll create an Excel spreadsheet. First and foremost, I'll do my initial research on who I want to reach out to. And I play with email addresses on Google to try and figure out how to get to somebody's email. I will look and figure out how I can find someone that's connected to them on LinkedIn to get an introduction. And if none of that works, then I figure out how I'm going to call the front desk of an office. I'm going to first find their number on Google, and then I'm going to call the front desk, and I'm going to make friends with the front reception, who's usually the gatekeeper who doesn't want to let you through. So it's always about, I have a tactic. So I love to sing. So I always, when I'm doing a cold call to warm myself up before I get on the cold call, I start singing. So when the phone rings and the person answers on the other line, I'm actually singing to them. Crazy as it sounds, it immediately, it doesn't matter how hard of a gatekeeper they are, it actually dissipates any roadblock that there is. So it's finding what your thing is. That's my thing. I will sing, I'll be singing it. And the best part is when you call and they have a song that's playing while you're waiting for the receptionist to answer you. I start singing that song and then I tell them about the song that I was singing. It always gets me past them and it gets me to the person that I need to get to. Because even if I don't know the person, if I do that and I speak with that receptionist, she then wants to help me, because she now has made a personal connection with me in 2 seconds. So that is my technique for cold calling. It works. I've been doing it for 10 years. I have been the #1 salesperson in numerous companies. And they always say to me, how do you do it? That's my technique. So it's finding out what works for you, because it's not everything's going to work for everyone, right? But figuring out what that is too, because you have to recognize that it's just like when a telemarketer calls you and you're like, oh God, I don't want to talk to them. But there's some telemarketers who call you and they just get you right away because they have that personality on the phone. So that's for cold calling. That's the first thing that I think is important and that I found to be successful. When it comes to getting introductions, I'll go back to LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great place to do your research, scour the internet. Obviously, people know you're looking at them when you're on LinkedIn. So I usually sign out of LinkedIn and Google, and I'll get just a snippet of information. And then after I read the information, I'll be like, is it worth it for them to let me know, for me to let them know that I'm looking at them? And then I'll look and maybe I'll go into Facebook and I'll look at who in Facebook I know that's connected before I go back to LinkedIn to look at who's connected. Because I want to make sure that it's worth it for me to let them know that I'm looking at them. Because then I'm going to go and reach out to the person that I know who's then going to do that introduction. But at the same time that I'm doing that, I'm also sending out an email to some of my peers who I know are within that industry and say, hey, does anybody know so-and-so? And 9 times out of 10, between
looking at Facebook, LinkedIn, and that, I usually get a response back that this is exactly, somebody's going to get me in touch with them. And I then will write what I want somebody to say to them as an introduction, because if you leave it up to somebody else to tell people what you want them to say, it's never going to get done. So I always have like my blanket email introduction that as soon as somebody's like, sure, I'll do an introduction for you, I'm like, okay, here you go. I don't want them to have to do the work. And while I do that, then I look at them on LinkedIn. So they're getting an email from someone else about me. They see that I'm looking at them on LinkedIn, and then I will then figure out how I can potentially play with an email, with their company email. So I'll do like the Phoenix.Gonzalez, or I'll do P Gonzalez, and I'll play with all of those emails on Google, and 9 times out of 10, I get really lucky. I'm pretty crafty with emails. I am a stalker. I'm a salesperson.
I'm like, this is me.
I'm being honest, I'm a salesperson. Like, I mean, you have to be crafty. If you want to succeed in this business, you have to be crafty.
Yeah.
So
Seek and you
Phoenix,
shall
why would
find.
you not want someone to know that you look to them unless they're an ex-boyfriend?
Well, no, I do want them, but in time. Like, I want to make sure that it's valuable. Like, it's not just me looking at a random, because, you know, people look at you at LinkedIn all the time. You're like, why are they looking at me?
Yeah. I think that's only you though, because I really don't. I never look. I have no idea who's looking at me all day.
I
always
look.
I
I know who's looking at me on LinkedIn, and then I look at them and I'm like, oh, how does that work with my business? Or who's connected? Who can I help by the people looking at me? So you can unlock. No, you can't actually unlock. But
I'm always happy when someone's looking at me. I'm like, you've got 15 looks? Really?
Yeah.
It sounds like dating to me.
I love it.
Finishing a sentence.
Yeah, I was finishing a sentence. So, so those are the two things. One, cold calling. Second, obviously using LinkedIn and your network of people in your email and Facebook as a combined effort to get you in front of the people that you want to get in front of. So, when it comes to branding yourself as a company, and it has to be a consistent message. So no matter what you do, there needs to be a consistent story that you're sharing from, like, and that's why I have an email template that is my go-to. It's in my drafts. I always copy that draft and make sure that that's what I lead with, because whether they get it from one person, they get it from me, or they look at me online, it's always the same consistent story that they're getting.
There was one other interesting thing that you were talking about, and that is the personal branding of the people in your startup that you use.
So our CFO is our money honey. And when it comes to, so I know my role in our company. I'm one of the founders, but I know my role. So when I open all doors, but when I open a door, I always make sure that I am putting the person who that door needs to be opened for in that email, in that conversation right away. And we, as a company, took our business cards, and on our business cards have half of our face on all of our business cards as a personal branding piece. We started that by first testing with a normal person, just a stock photography photo, got a great response from it as a company. It was a test. Once we recognized that worked, we decided it was time to put each of our faces on our business cards, which then branded us. And then again, it's, you know, when I talk about Selena, I personalize in the email. It's, as a company, people want to know about you first. The product is great, the company is great, but they make a connection with you. So when I'm introducing anyone in our company, I'm making sure that they're branded in that email. She's our money honey, and everybody loves when I say money honey. So I tell people, I'm introducing you to the money honey. and it warms, again, it's like that cold call. It warms the conversation. People are like, oh, there's a personality to this email. There's a personality to this company. So, you know, everybody in our company has their own kind of, you know, like our project manager and graphic designer. It's like every time I work with our clients who sign up, he's automatically included on that email, and he's the go-to person. You know, he has his branding. He's like the smile. We call him the smile. And every video that we've done, represents that. And I know that's what you wanted to talk in terms of branding the company. So when we launched our company, we created a web series. It wasn't by choice. Our director who created the promo video, our sizzle reel, decided that he was going to label that first video episode 1 and showed it to us afterwards, and then said, okay, now you guys need to take your iPhones and you need to go out into the world, and for the next 10 weeks, we're going to create a web series. So we all got on board. And it branded us as a company, and it gave life to our startup, and it gave life to the product, and it made people want to engage with us, because not only were they getting to learn about our product, they were getting to learn about us. Digital Hollywood was in it last year when we had the first season. Every conference we were at, everything that we went out to AFM, it was all a part of the experience. And it really helped because people feel like they have a personal connection with our company now. Even though they don't speak to us all on a daily basis, they have a personal connection. So that's personal branding for me with our company.
Great, thank you. Kirsty, the top salesperson in real estate back in Australia, what do you have to say about selling?
So I love that. We're like soul sisters. We're going to be such good friends. So I do a lot of coaching for entrepreneurs and small business owners. And the biggest thing is that this is their biggest challenge, how to sell themselves. And at the end of the day, you don't make any money if you can't close a sale. And I tackle it from a very similar position, that it's not about closing the deal or scripts and dialogues. I never sold anything, but I built great relationships for 20 years who have followed me and transitioned with me through 4 different careers, and many of them still follow me today on Facebook from across the world. So I think that relationships is key. In terms of the cold calling, I have a couple of videos. If you want to email me, I'm happy to send you the links. They're on YouTube. It'll be under Kirsty TV cold calls or something like that, but otherwise just email me. But there's a lot of things that you said that are nuances that we need to learn, like the tonality, using the singing at the beginning. So if you don't want to sing, but smiling before you get on the phone, being happy, doing some star jumps, not going on after a negative call. Taking the pressure away for it being about a sales call, that you are just trying to connect with them and get your foot in the door so the rapport is open. For me, it's things like, have I caught you at a good time? Is one of my opening lines. Talking about the weather, if they're in a different city, small things. So you're not trying to sell, you're trying to connect, because if you connect, we do business with people we like, there's more chance you'll get through to the gatekeeper, all those things. So anyway, we could go on and on for hours about sales techniques, but watch those videos and that'll be a lot quicker.
By the way, these resources that are getting thrown out after each of these panels that we do, I have been putting up a summary on itsdifferentforgirls.com, and that's 4 with the number 4. Itsdifferentforgirls.com. And if you go there, you'll see the last 3 sessions, and there's the video of the last session. And this video, if it's like last time, it'll come out like between 2 and 4 weeks. So, but the actual resources that we're coming to, by the time I put up this blog post, it will actually have a link to where you can find Kirsty's YouTube things and the things that have been referred to. We'll actually get you there.
So I can find it.
Okay. So one of the things that goes with selling and that goes with raising money for your startup is decks. And Erin has shared with me that she is a deck expert. And so I'd like some tips about decks, starting with a sales deck and then going to funding.
Sure. So show of hands, how many of you currently use decks for business? Okay. So surprisingly a minority. Okay. So how many of you are looking for funding right now?
Always.
Oh, good. More decks are needed.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. All right. So a couple of things. At the end of the day, yes, there are 2 applications. One is for sales, which is, you have a client base and you want to sell them something. And the other one is, the other application is for funding. You want someone to give you money. I mean, at the end of the day, you want someone to give you money, whether it's sales or whether it's an investment. And so to me, even though those are 2 completely distinctly different audiences, the end goal is the same. And the way that you would always approach that, the way that I approach any deck or pitch of any kind, whether it's for, startups that I'm on the board of, or if it's for my, much bigger 500 person, company, it's always what's in it for the audience. What is the person that you're pitching to? What do they want? And it could be a personal thing, and it could be a business thing. It's something that's going to help you close the deal no matter what it is. You always approach it not by, hey, look at how great I am, or look at how great my company is, or the product is. It's how is what I'm telling you going to solve something for you? How is it going to help you? That's always the first gate. And then, if you are using something physical like a deck, whether it's electronic or whether you print it or whatever you do with it, always a great investment to get some professional looking graphics. If you invest in anything, even if you're bootstrapping, visual presentation is always something that you should do, because that's an extension of your brand. People may not even look at the words that are on the page. They're going to make a snap judgment decision about who you are based on what you're putting in front of them, based on the visuals that you're putting in front of them. And that's true for anyone, whether it's a VC, whether it's a client, it's true for absolutely anyone. And so to that end, on the deck end, keep the words very few, especially if you're going to be presenting this in person. In fact, if you can, use a visual only, and that way the engagement is with you and not with the piece of paper or with the screen they're looking at. They're engaging with you, and all you're doing is supporting what you're talking to them about with a pretty visual. Question?
What do you mean by deck?
Oh, so a deck is a presentation. Basically, it's slides. So most common these days, trending is Keynote.
If
but
you have a Mac,
PowerPoint
it's
also.
Keynote.
Yeah,
Or
but
PowerPoint.
PowerPoint is the more kind of
Presses.
traditional. You can build decks in any kind of technology. I mean, you could build something in InDesign. You can build, HTML5. But the point is, it's a presentation of some kind that's accompanying your your interaction.
And LinkedIn bought SlideShare, which is all decks. So if you want to get examples of decks, you can go in there and search for the topic that you're doing your deck on and see what other people have done.
And so if you are looking at getting funded as opposed to sales, I was a VC for Michael Milken's group for a couple of years, and Entertainment Media Ventures. And we used to look at decks, presentations at the time. It would be a whole book, but it's basically, what is your business? How is it going to make money? Is there a need in the market for it? And then really they're investing in people. Who are you? And they're going to check you out very carefully. Who's your team? So it's key slides. And it went from a book to slides to now it's a link. So oftentimes people don't want the paper, people don't want, even a CD or a DVD, they'll throw it. But a link, it's gotten to the point where it's a link, but always it's about the executive summary, really catching them. What is the need? How are you filling it? Who are you? Who's your team?
Exactly. So for me, there are 4 things that I would concentrate on, whether it's a deck or whether it's an in-person. It's, as was just mentioned, what problem are you solving? That's always number 1. And you need to be really articulate and focused on that. And then surprisingly, this is an issue with the startups that I talk to. Who are you selling to? Who's your audience for this? And it always amazes me how many times the answer I get is, oh, it's for everyone. Well, no, it can't be for everyone. Well, if that's your dream, at the end of the day, you can't boil the ocean that way. Where are you starting? Who is it really for? Who can really benefit from this? So it's, what problem are you solving? Who are you selling to? That's number 2. And how are you differentiated? I don't know how many of you are fans of the Silicon Valley show, but yeah. So last season there was an episode, TechCrunch Disrupt, where every single startup pitched themselves as a disruptor. Not everyone is a disruptor, but you do need to have a really firm grasp on how what you're offering, whether it's your personal brand or your company, how that's different from what's already out there. Yeah. So that's number 3. And then the number 4 is, you've already heard this from me, but I'm going to repeat it because it's so important. What's in it for them?
Yeah,
No, I'd like to add real quickly, if you're not at the point in your personal brand, and we all are, that of doing a deck or looking for investors, then minimally what you should do is create a one sheet for yourself. And I have a one sheet, it's on my website. I email it to people when they ask for it. I have a one sheet for the television show that I'm in development on, and I have a one sheet for just me with all my social media and just sort of it looks like a resume, but it's cuter. It's got logos, it's got photos. So having just a one sheet that you can put as a PDF and you can send it to people so they can get to know you is really a great starting point.
Yeah, and I think I'll just add to it. Guy Kawasaki he has a really great template for creating decks for investment, for pitching. And I know that creating all of this stuff can be overwhelming, and there are a lot of useful tools online that you guys can utilize. And I'll just throw out a couple of them. Fiverr, it's $5, and you can have people create just about anything for your business.
FIVVER.
That's right.
Right?
And then
Or
also,
no E. Wait. FIVERR.
FIVERR.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah. FIVERR. Also, if you're going to hire someone on Craigslist to create a sizzle reel for you or any of those things, take down this name. Envato is a company that has 4 different products in their product line. They have WordPress, they have Video Hive, they have Audio Jungle, and one more. You can go and find stop motion, already made graphics that you can then go on Craigslist and say, I need somebody who does stop motion to add my name here, because they've already created the whole template. It's a beautiful system for you to create bumpers and intros and webs, everything that you could possibly want. So you can arm yourself and go out and buy these products and then hire somebody so that you're not having somebody create it from scratch. Envato is the company. EVA.
No, ENVATO.
Oh, there you go. Envato.
VATO.
And they've got 4 different product lines that are in the Theme Forest, Audio Jungle, Video Hive. Great resource.
And that will.
Yeah, they're built in like After Effects files, stop motion, all the.
Could you bring this into Final Cut?
You sure can. You sure can. Yep, you don't have to pay somebody to create a whole opening title sequence for you. Yeah. Well, no, that's not $5. They range anywhere from like $19 to like $50. But you also are paying for a license so that you can use it commercially. So there you go. ENVATO.
Envato. And that's also going to be on itsdifferentforgirls.com.
There you go.
Very shortly.
Guy
Kawasaki has templates, and he also has the book on self-publishing.
Yeah.
Guy Kawasaki is a great resource. Go ahead.
I would like to know.
I do want to cover one thing before we stop for all questions. Can I just do that? And then we'll open up the floor. And I remember that you're coming. And that is conscious capitalism, because this is a very important part of branding, both for yourself and for a company. And I would like Deborah Fine to address that.
Yes, it has become very, very important to make sure we have investor groups where it's Social Enterprise Network, where we'll get together and we'll say, okay, we're going to invest. What do we really know about this company? And not to, to beat up on Walmart or, Gap or anybody else, but they've been in the press so much lately with the sweatshops in China and the negative press. And what's so important is to really watch who you are using, who you are working with. Is anything going to come bite you? But then also, what are you giving back? So what people want to know now isn't just what are you doing, but how are you giving back? How are you paying it forward? Are you mentoring? Are you involved with a nonprofit? So your employees are told, go on boards, give back hours. So it's become an environment where there is also quite a bit of money available if you have a company or a product that does empower others or does good, teaches others. So that's where we're really bringing together the helping others, whether it's disadvantaged kids, whether it's women who are abused. You see so many of these different things, bringing that together with what we can do for profit. to feed it back in. So with I Have a Dream, it's working with a lot of corporate sponsors as well to say, don't you want to show that the product you're putting out there, that you're actually making sure that these kids have access to it, because they don't. So I found that to be extremely important.
And if we may shill, IHADL, ihadla.org. ihadla.org. I Have a Dream Foundation, Los Angeles is just a marvelous organization that Deborah heads. And if you're here in Los Angeles, there's so much that you can do with them, mentoring, volunteering, just pushing it out on social media so that people know about it. All of their handles are at ihadla.
Well, the other
It's-
thing too is we are looking for we are looking for some mentors. So if anybody is interested in helping a third grade girl, boy, et cetera, and just being their role model a little bit for hope. Or we also have a junior board. So if you're wondering about how to get on boards, sometimes it is the nonprofit that you'll get onto first. Now there may be an amount of money that you need to put in, but there are also junior boards. So in our case, we have a very high profile board of directors, and it's quite a bit to be on the board. But the junior board, it's $200, and it's helping at events and helping with the kids. And we would love to bring some of you on, I'm sure, on the junior board level. And then we have a couple of positions open as well. I told Linda I was going to say in our office, in our executive office. So
See Deborah at the end.
if you're
Okay, so now we are going to open it up to questions because we're at the 10-minute, we are at the 10-minute mark, right?
Oh,
You
great.
didn't flag me, but it is, right?
Here
Okay.
comes up.
So, and you were first. Yes.
I would like to know a little bit about personal branding, and it sounds like many of you have different hats that you wear, different things, and boiling it down into, it sounds like a few keywords, and maybe just a basic, if I could hear your keyword brand words for each of you, and if you just have the basics on how you create a personal brand for yourself when you do wear a lot of different.
I'll start there. So I have a chapter I can email you called CEO of Brand You. And I think when you're a one-man operator, which 90% of this room put their hands up at the beginning that they are, it really takes you a little bit of time to distill that and figure out like who you are and what you are. My words would be inspiration and empowerment. So I try to make sure that, as I said earlier, with social media, with everything I do, I'm making sure that that's filtering through in the language that I use, in the way that I share my day, in the way that I, look at things from a philosophical point of view. I'll think through, like, how do I language this in a way that's inspiring? So like yesterday, I posted about the power of positive affirmation. So a great way for you to look at how my brand comes across is to go to those different platforms at Kirsty TV on Facebook and on Twitter and Instagram and have a look at what I'm sharing, whether it's personal, what I'm doing during the day, or work. It is always aligned with those messages. And then if I'm sharing something funny or a humorous video, again, I'm looking at making sure that I'm sharing things from that window. That's the filter and the lens that I share things from. Whereas somewhere else you might go and all they share is cooking, or they might share the news or the bad things that are going on in the world. Or you when you're looking at somebody's feed, you're really getting an idea of who their personality is. Well, that personality, when you're a one-man operator, is your brand.
And I use those keywords everywhere. So in other words, my keywords will be on my Twitter description. You have an opportunity to have links in your Twitter description. They'll be in my LinkedIn description, my Facebook description. But another area that I'm hoping that you'll realize, or if you're not using it already, is anytime you write something, in your signature, in your bio, at the end of every single one of my articles, whether it's on Huffington Post, whether it's on my own site, Cyber Dating Expert, or social media and more, I say Julie Spira is America's top online dating expert and digital matchmaker. And there are links on that, and it links back to digitalmatchmaker.com, and it links back online dating expert, links to the Meet Julie page where people can read my bio. So I'm very consistent in that, and I also use those words within the content that I write. And if any of you are on WordPress, how many of you are using WordPress? A lot. That's great. Well, WordPress, you can use your keywords. Continue to use the keywords. Always use your name as a keyword because you are your personal brand. So if I write an article, my keyword will say Julie Spira. online dating expert, digital matchmaker, internet dating expert. I will consistently use those same keywords in my sign-offs, and I will use them in my blog posts just so they can be indexed by the search engines or anyone else out there that wants to connect with you. Because let's face it, women, we do like to help other women.
And I would say that as you're just evolving, so I would have been known as a strong CEO, starting a lot of companies, running public companies, all these things. Probably Ice Queen, I don't know. Dragon Lady. I had the VCs called me all kinds of things like that. I was the only woman in technology back then, and then it was much softer in the creative side and helping others. So I use. There is another Deborah Fine. Oh, she is an author. She talks about small talk.
The one in Denver?
The one in Denver. Yes.
She's a friend of mine, sorry.
Oh, anyway, so I use CEO. She's not a CEO. Anyway, so I am a CEO, but CEO, conscious capitalism, philanthropist, angel investor, those things really tell you about the kind of mix that's within the brand. So that's what I try to do.
So these are really excellent ways of promoting who you already are. If you're looking to really find who that is, if you don't quite know, it's obviously that's step one. And Linda's going to kill me because she wanted no fluff. She wanted zero fluff or soft stuff. But, unfortunately, part of the process, or fortunately, is, we're busy people. I mean, every single one of us. We're just running, we're getting things done, we're accomplishing things every single day of our lives because we wear so many hats. But it would be extremely worthwhile to actually sit down, quiet place, and you may have to do this multiple times to really figure out what is the essence of you, what you stand for, as a person, and then thread that through what do you want to accomplish in your professional life. And they have to jibe together. They have to be super married in order for you to come across as authentic and in order for your brand to mean anything. It has to be really true to you. So take that time, write it down, commit it to paper or to pixels, however you work, and get it done.
That wasn't fluff. I was talking about life balance and that kind of thing.
Mommy
Spade
mommy
questions.
stuff.
Okay, all right. Here. Yes, I'm sorry.
So just following on sort of what she was asking.
I'm sorry.
I'm sure a lot of people have multiple brands and maybe they're completely different. You may have your one job and then you're building something else. So if you're kind of like have two really disparate careers, what do you do with your branding? I created personally, I did two LinkedIn profiles because they were so disparate that I couldn't clutter and I didn't know what to do. So any thoughts?
They don't cross over in any way at all?
No.
Can you mention what they're?
Can you tell us what
I think that's a disaster when you have two separate LinkedIn, because they will find both. And and I would suggest a website in your own name that has different tabs for different things. I know it's difficult, but that's what Deborah does. DeborahFine.tv.
It is
Take
what
a
I
look.
do. Yeah,
She's
it's
got
very
that
disparate.
incredibly disparate. Take a look at DeborahFine.tv and you'll see how to do it.
It
Yes, I'm
indexes
sorry.
it, yep.
Question is for the panel. I want to know how can beginning speakers brand themselves to get more speaking engagements? I know Toastmasters, but how do you get out and get more speaking engagements? And for Erin, how do you really take on LinkedIn? I'm a part of groups. What do you do? How do you get more involved in LinkedIn?
Well, first you hire Linda Sherman.
So the first part of your question, how do you get speaking engagements? Well, start doing things that are, worthwhile and that are, that would be interesting for people to hear about. That's first and foremost. And then use some of the tactics we talked about today to get yourself out and to get your profile up on social media and, on LinkedIn, like we talked about blogging and so on. And, there are seminars run on how to take advantage of LinkedIn. So if you have a specific question about a tactic or anything else, then definitely come see us after.
I believe also, can you not write articles and
Into the
blogs to submit to Huffington Post?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So if you
I'm on
find a
Huff-
topic that's
I'm on Huffington Post,
specific,
yeah.
that's specific to you, where you feel like that's something that you want to represent, you become a thought leader once you keep writing about it. You
Yeah.
use LinkedIn to do that
Yeah.
with the tools that you were talking about in LinkedIn, as well as submitting. You may not get accepted at first, but you keep submitting and you keep being passionate. Eventually, you'll be known as a thought leader
Yeah.
in regards to the subjects and topics that you're passionate about.
I think it's really good to just go to a lot of conferences like this, connect with moderators, connect with conference coordinators, and let them know afterwards, by the way, I enjoyed your panel, or tell the conference coordinator, I really enjoyed your session, and I think I could be of value when you're planning out your next agenda. I'd love you to keep me in mind, because they're looking for people that are passionate and have a story to tell and have a topic that they are, interested in. And once you do get that first speaking session, make sure you stay in touch with all of your panelists, because today I got an email from a co-panelist of mine from 3 years ago from Digital LA, from Love Goes Digital, inviting me to speak at UCLA's Create conference next Friday, of which I'm going to do. And that's because this gentleman met me 3 years ago sitting on a panel. So that's sort of how you keep it sort of the machine going.
Yeah, network. Yes.
Hi, I'm Callie Gilbert,
Hi,
and I am just starting my speaking career. I'm actually an author of 6 published books.
Wow.
Congratulations.
So yes, Amazon is my best friend. So 4 bestsellers, and my latest one I actually wrote in 30 days, which is called It's Simply Publishing, which tells you everything you need to know about publishing. My question though is, I don't have any prior speaking engagements that I have video of, but I have television interviews. So can I take those and put them into?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
there's a
Oh,
couple
yeah.
of things.
They're
So
great.
carrying on from the first question, for both of you, for anyone looking at speaking, there's a big difference between doing free speaking and getting paid $10,000 an hour to speak. So that's the first thing I would say. And it's taken me, it's been an 8-year journey to get to that kind of caliber of speaker. So you speak for free in the beginning, you build your reel, you have things you can show. No one's going to pay someone $10,000 if they can't see them speak, if they've never spoken in front of 1,000 people, and they shouldn't, if you don't know how to carry that audience, if you don't know how to embed the learning. So go and study NLP, study storytelling, study stagecraft. If you want to be a speaker at that level, and this is going to be your career, then you have to be investing in yourself and studying with the right people, and happy to chat with you off afterwards in more detail. In the beginning, when you're wanting to just build that, speak for free. Yes, Toastmasters, in Digital Hollywood, panels, anywhere you can, get someone to film it. In the beginning, yes, using something like copies of media footage, or use straight to camera. For $150, you can have a camera guy come over, shoot you at home, straight on the wall, edit it up. And as long as they can show there's credibility, there's content, the book will help you a lot. The fact that you have that credibility, there's a depth of content there. Now what you need to show them is you have the ability to educate, to embed learning, and to be able for, people pay that kind of money when they get an ROI. They want to know that their audience it's not just fluff and that a day later they'll forget about it, that there's going to be some kind of outcome and learning for the room, and that it's going to have a longevity about it.
In the back of the room.
Thank you. You mentioned that a couple of people were talking about DEX, and then I have a follow-up question.
DEX.
Time management. Just out of curiosity, DEX started out being kind of long, and now the length of DEX before the 1 year is in between. So what's your average page count for a DEX?
So definitely depends on what you're pitching, for sure. But if I had to really throw out some uninformed generic number, I would say shoot for between 5 and 10 slides max. And then if you absolutely have to go to something like 15 or so on, use chapter slides, use transitions. So it helps you organize your thoughts, and it helps the audience really understand where you're going. And it helps with storytelling. And at the end of the day, whatever piece of content you have, whether it's a deck or it's a blog or anything, even, a tweet, it needs to tell a story. It's all about storytelling.
Yeah, I think the other thing to mention about DEX, you're going to be asked every time you talk to somebody for something different, okay? Somebody's going to look at your deck that's 5 pages long. It's too long. Somebody else is going to look at it and they're saying, it's too short. There's no exact science. You need to tell your story first and foremost, because if you tell your story and you're authentic with that, the right person is going to gravitate towards you and your story and what you're sharing and want to invest in that and engage with that. Second, an appendix. Get the best part of your deck into the first couple of pages. Everything else goes in the appendix. That's accepted. So people are okay if the deck is longer because they're like, oh, it's the appendix. I can get to that stuff.
And it's also a matter of time, and not just pages. It's, it's about 15 minutes, 10, 15 minutes, and you want them to want more. So you want them to really be interested, and then they'll ask a lot of questions. So-
Exactly. And also something important to keep in mind about decks is that at the end of the day, even if you're using it for a purely sales purpose, nobody ever buys off of a deck. The whole purpose of a deck is to pique someone's interest, to get their attention, and to get a follow-up call, email, meeting, whatever. That is the sole purpose of a deck.
And the follow-up question is in regards to time management and entrepreneur and going from being creative into like handling my business. What is it for each of you that you do in order to really prioritize and build in on your time and managing time to build your business, like the balance of time management and priority?
Yeah. For me, it starts with managing my energy. So being conscious of, when you're flying, when you're traveling, when you're doing all these things, I have to exercise. I have to eat well. So today, I had a protein shake and a banana. It's like, don't go have that bagel with cream cheese. It's like, it's checking in with yourself, because if I do, I'm going to crash by 12, 1 o'clock. If I'm traveling on a plane, I'm going to be dehydrated. I'm going to be sleepy. So managing when I have a lot of stuff on, if I know I'm filming, for example, I'm, at a karaoke tonight, I'm not going to stay. I'm not going to strain my vocal cords. I've got to film on Friday. So it's being conscious of everything I put in my calendar and how it fits with everything else I have to be doing. So I'm always managing my energy.
Yeah.
But it's also about the distinction between the urgent and the important.
Very
Because
true.
so much of our time is spent addressing the urgent that we could get into the weeds really, really quickly. So again, it's so important to do that step back and really understand what overall goals you're working towards, whether it's on the personal level or on a professional level. And even if you occasionally do need to deal with the urgent, like we all do, you still need to have that step back and check in with yourself. What have I done today that gets me towards my goals?
Yeah, I think the other thing is on like an actual like drill down, choose the days that you make your sales calls. I don't make sales calls on Monday because everyone's inundated on a Monday. Tuesday is my sales call day. Wednesdays is a hump day, so I know people are, they've gotten through the first part of the week. So Tuesdays and Wednesdays are my 2 sales days. Thursdays and Fridays, that's just additional work for me. The other things I do, I know that I do a to-do list every day. I don't
So
do
do
a
I.
weekly to-do list. I do a daily to-do
too.
list, and I check those things off. And the biggest part of my to-do list is acknowledging everything that I do in that moment I'm succeeding at. Just taking those little wins gives you the ability to have that energy to keep moving forward. You have to stop and enjoy those little success moments.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
I think we're over time. How are we doing back there? Are we
It's all
okay?
good. Come see us.
Thank you. Come see us. Thank you.
Hey, honey, how are you? Hi, Michelle. You too.
No, that's
hi, Joy.
To what? Sorry.
You are a true entrepreneur. You LinkedIn me while I was on the bed.
So they're helping us go global.
I love that.
So,
Yes.
so yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I seek out all kinds of opportunities. You should contact me. There is a program. Yeah, there's a program called Market Links, which is